What is up, you guys? It's your girl, Alicia. I am back, same day, filming because I had a lot to say today and I have a lot of energy and I kind of just want to bang this all out because everything is here and I just want to let it all out to you. So I've been having a reoccurring thought constantly coming over my head of how to build a better relationship with food. And this is something that I guess I teach and I do with my clients in my own practice every single day. But I also had when I did the seminar the other day, I really realized that when you are helping someone build a better relationship with food or anything else, you also, as a coach, as a practitioner, as anyone who is a person of giving information, a person of helping somebody else, you also need to be able to understand what level you are at before you can help somebody at their level. And when I was doing this presentation with coaches, it really clicked to me where I was just like, how did I get to this position of my relationship with food? And I really had to dial back and think just a little bit and understand that my relationship with food didn't come so easy. So where people see me at right now, where I am in the kitchen all the time, I'm getting my produce from an organic farm company or whatever, or I'm making my own bone broth. I was not this person. I definitely was not this person for a very long time. I also always imagined myself being that person, wanting to be in the kitchen, cook food, learn how to make things from scratch. I wanted to be that girl. And it took me a while to understand, in order for me to get there, I have to understand my relationship with food. So I've journaled this out. I've also sat and talked about this to myself. I prayed about it as well. Just getting a clear understanding of why was this so important to me? Well, first off, my relationship with food growing up was super poor in terms of not understanding it, especially as an athlete. And as an athlete and a coach right now too with my athletes, it's very important to me to have these open conversations with my clients and my athletes, because the fact that, one, athletes are doing a sport that takes a lot of energy out of them, and they need to perform at a top level so they can compete at a top level. But then also, you want to look at it through a personal lens that each and every single one of us as human beings, we go through this world where we need food to fuel us at a lot of many given moments. So when I look back and I think about what my relationship with food was and what it is today, I am on a huge, this spectrum that looks like this. And I used to be here, and I'm not quite yet on the other far side of the spectrum. I feel like I would put myself somewhere in that 80% tile, towards where it is that I want to be. Now, in terms of having a bad relationship or poor relationship with food, what that looked like for me was I grew up with an eating disorder that not actually nobody knew about, because when you have an eating disorder, it's not something that you just openly talk about. It's something that you keep a secret and you kind of hone into it this is mine and this is the only thing that I can control. And because I thought that I had control of that one thing in my life while everybody else was controlling everything else in my life, and I say everybody in terms of my parents, they had full control of everything else that I could do. I thought that I for some reason, had control of my food. So I had control of how much portion I was getting when people were sharing out my food. I had control of how much I was going to eat, if I was going to eat, when I was going to eat. And that kind of gave me this mindset of, oh, whatever I'm doing, it's working, because I need to look a certain way. I need to be a certain size for the sport that I'm doing, but also just to fit in with my peers per se. And going through that for a very long period of a time can really form yourself, or make you look at yourself as if what you're doing is right. But what I wasn't noticing was my energy levels, being tired all the time. I wasn't able to perform the skills that I needed to perform in my sports through gymnastics and cheerleading. And then as well as I got older, through bodylifting and powerlifting. But then also I couldn't perform the way I wanted to in my normal day-to-day life with school, with work, etc. But I didn't understand the correlation of what food was and what it was going to do for me in terms of helping me focus, having all this high energy, and being able to just be the best possible version of me that I could be. And that takes a lot of unlearning to be okay with taking what you think you know and stripping it down and being like, well, we're going to relearn everything. Everything that you thought you knew, I want you to take it, throw it into the garbage, and be okay with relearning everything. Because when you come from a mindset of scarcity, you come from a mindset of fear and fearing food at a level that it becomes an eating disorder, it becomes body dysmorphia, it becomes just something that you cannot control, even though you think you have control. You then have to be like, where do I go from here? So I'm very happy with myself that I was able to see a lot of my signs as I start to get older and be like, well, something needs to change. And I always remember when I was in college, my she wasn't a therapist. Was she? Counselor, student counselor. So my one student counselor at the time, I was going through a lot of anxiety. So when I had this eating disorder, anxiety was like overriding. I couldn't get a break. So I just remember her telling me 3 things. And I always tell this story because it resonates with me so much, and it starts to resonate with a lot of people as well. And her telling me 3 things, and this is exactly where my relationship with food started to change, started to shift, and allow me to like expand to where I am today. And this took 10 years, like good 10 years, maybe 11 years in the making of getting me to where I am today. But there's so much more, and so much more where I want to go when it comes to my relationship with food and being able to teach this to my clients and new clients and everybody else. So she told me 3 things, and those 3 things were: 1, omega-3 for my brain; 2 was sunlight and movement, so both of them together; and the last one was, when I go to the grocery store, try 1 new fruit and 1 new vegetable each grocery store run. And I took those tips and I ran with it, okay? I was starting to wake up early in the morning, and this is me in like college, you guys, like waking up early in the morning. I was going for morning runs and doing like some type of movement after. So this is when I slowly started getting into strength training, but like at home workouts type form, because I never touched the gym in my life until I left college. But I started doing that, and when I used to go to the grocery store, I started picking up new fruits and new fresh vegetables that I've never had before, and things that I was kind of like ick about, and being like, well, it's healthy for me, so I'm just going to eat it. And then also going to the supplement store and getting like an omega-3 to help with like my brain. So fish oil is good for the brain, good for the body, healing. And that kind of just like shifted a lot of things for me because I started seeing a change. But when I look back, like the change that I was more focused on back then was still how my body looked. And I was happy with seeing how my body looked. I was happy with seeing me going from, and I say this like very gently because I look back and I'm like, I wasn't overweight. I wasn't big at all to begin with. I was still very tiny, especially having that like disorder. But I saw my body shaping up in a different way than my body just being like kind of stick mode, if that makes sense. So I was putting some like meat on my body and I was building some muscle and I was able to actually perform the way that I needed to perform, especially when I was doing cheerleading at that time. And then like school kind of got better too, but whatever. Anyways, that's not the point here. But in terms of just like everything coming together at that time, coming back home and just eventually building myself up in the gym and the way that I started eating so much more food. Like I was finishing a plate of food and not feeling bad about it. Being able to sit down with everybody and eat the same amount of food, if not like more, because I needed to make sure that like I was making my gains, and that helped me a lot. So now where I'm at with my relationship with food and being able to like go back and discover what the relationship with food was before, I'm able to look at where I'm at now and be like, my relationship with food is actually really good. And that's one thing I want to get across in terms of when you're looking to start a new diet, start a new lifestyle, you need to see yourself at the level that you are at now, the level where you were at, and the level that you're trying to get to. A lot of people will look at where they're at and try to jump 10 steps ahead. And that's where a lot of us fail. If you're able to ask yourself, what's my relationship with food? If your lifestyle is something that you want to change, you have to look back and ask yourself, is or was my relationship with food where I wanted it to be? I know for a fact with me, it was not. And I didn't know where to turn to until someone gave me that advice of movement, sunlight, omega-3s for the brain, start trying new foods. And that eventually led me into being in the kitchen, trying out new recipes and seeing the things that I loved and seeing the things that I didn't like. But the ultimate price with that was that I was able to check things off and say, okay, well, I didn't really like this vegetable. I don't need to eat this anymore. Or I was like, maybe I can find a different recipe that might work with this said vegetable and I might be okay with it. And that really helped me go so much further into what my relationship is now, because I still to this day use those rules for myself. I'm always trying new fruits and vegetables. I'm always making sure that I'm taking in something for my brain, and I'm always moving and I'm always getting that sunlight. But the way that I do it now, it's way more advanced than what I was doing before. I now understand the operation of what my body needs and how it flows. I now understand when I look at my plate of food, I have so much more joy into it because of the fact that I make the food that I put in my plate. And if I decide to eat out, I'm able to, if I decide to eat out, I'm able to say, okay, how is this going to make me feel? How can I make this better? I know if I eat this, I might feel tired after this. I might feel bloated, gassy, that might not be the right fit for me. But I can make this better by adding in something that I can either eat before that's going to help my digestive system break down this food a lot better, or I can remove something that might not work for me. And that's how I play the role in my relationship with my body, the relationship with my mind, the relationship with the food. Everything around me goes by me asking questions about how I'm going to feel. What this body that I navigate through, the body that I move, the body that allows me to wake up and take steps every single day. That's how I operate. I have to ask myself these questions. So that means that you should be asking yourself these questions too. And if you don't have a coach or a mentor or whoever it is that's helping you in these type of ways, holla at me, leave a comment, hit that like button. We'll discuss, we'll talk, like we'll do it all, because these are the steps that you need to take. And one thing that I've realized is that all of this helps in such a particular way. Give me like a minute. I just keep getting a message. Oh my God. Now, after you are done asking yourself what your relationship with food is, you want to turn and then ask, what does your daily approach to food look like? So I kind of hinted it into the two questions I asked myself at the end is, how is it going to make me feel, and how can I make this better? That helps me approach food differently and helps me look at my meals differently, because I used to just eat for a means to an end, for my body to look a certain way, or for me to just have control. Now, the way that I ask these questions, it's not me looking for a certain type of control for me to operate at I can't eat this and I have to restrict this. I operate in a way of what is going to fuel me and what's going to allow me to feel enlightened, right? So asking those questions, how is this going to make me feel? How can I make this better? That's going to shift my mindset and seeing the food and being like, oh, I never noticed that when I eat a burger from McDonald's, and I don't eat McDonald's anymore, but when I used to, I didn't realize that the food that I was eating, that's what was causing me to bloat. That was what was causing me to be a little bit gassy. That was what was causing me to feel lethargic and have no energy whatsoever. Now, when I approach food, I'm looking at it as, what's going to make me have the best energy today? What's going to make Alicia thrive today? I want to thrive every single day in my life. And the way that I thrive is through the approach that I look at food. The way that food is going to fuel me in the best possible way ever. And that's why, like, I feel like me talking about this, you might be like, whoa, you love food. I do. I do love food, but I love it because it's what makes me me. It's what allows me to be in front of this camera and give you the best version of myself, because that is what allows me to thrive. I'm not looking at food to be like, is this going to make me lose weight? Is this going to make me fat? Like, it's not about that. It's about my energy. It's about my focus. It's about how I want to feel, less than about how I want to look. Because I know the choices that I make, the good choices, the great choices that I make for myself, my body is going to reap the benefit and it's going to thrive. It's going to create a body that I love to be in, regardless of, is it going to make me gain weight or not? Because I know how to approach food and how to approach it at a level that my body needs. You know what I'm saying? You don't approach food aesthetically. You approach it in a way that is going to help you level up and coordinate with how you train and how you move your body as well. So even as someone that trains a lot, I'm not going to the gym for aesthetic purposes, because I know my body's going to change regardless, because I am moving my body. Now, if I have food that meets me at that same level, I'm going to thrive. I'm going to be the best version of myself possible. Now, yes, that did take education. That did take time for me to understand what food is going to do to my body, especially when I put energy in and I'm pushing energy out. I know that those two are going to work great together when I understand it at a level that makes sense, where I was not understanding food and movement at a level that made sense. I was looking at it as a means to an end. I was working out way more than I should have been and eating way less. And my body was constantly searching for that extra energy, extra calorie in order for me to see that difference. But that left me either at the same weight or it left me gaining weight because my body was in scarcity. It was looking for food, but because I wasn't giving it enough, it was holding on to everything. So that power of how you approach food and how you connect it with other things too will start shifting that relationship that it is that you want. I'm doing fire here, guys. How are you guys liking this? How are you liking this conversation? Because I'm thriving. I'm loving it. How about you? Now, the last question that you should ask yourself is, has your perspective on food and eating changed over time? Now, if you answered and reflected on what your relationship with food is, and then you answered your approach to food, you should see that there is a different perspective. There is a different perspective and a change in the way that you look at food, the way that you enjoy food, the way that you use food for your body to thrive, for your energy to constantly be up, for your focus to be where it needs to be. And yeah, if you come into that last question and you're just like, no, my perspective hasn't changed, then that's where you need to be at. You need to be at this level and now start adding things in before you remove. But if you have seen that your perspective of food has changed, now you can stack on top of those habits that you've created. And once you start stacking, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever it is that you want. You know what I'm saying? But the main message for this talk here is for you guys to kind of just open up your eyes to what you want your relationship to with food to be in order for you to see a change in your lifestyle, how you feel, your energy, and everything that allows you to thrive in life. And I'm so passionate about this conversation because I've seen it with myself, how I've been able to go from a scarcity mindset, a fearful mindset, and be totally disengaged with food because I just thought it was going to do harm to me, to switching my mindset and realizing that this food here, the way that you treat it, the way that you allow it to help you, changed me so much that I see power in my hands when I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking food. I'm tasting what I'm making. I'm using the herbs. I'm using the fresh herbs. I'm getting my produce from a place that I never thought that I would, even knew about. Like, I didn't know about farmers markets back then. Like, I didn't know about a lot of these things because I was so disengaged. But once I started to become more engaged of understanding, where's my food coming from? What are the ingredients? How can I make things better for me? How is this stuff going to make me feel? It allowed me to thrive so much more than anything possible. And this is the message that I constantly send out to my clients because I want to see them thrive. I want to see them win in a space that makes them feel like they don't know anything or how to change or how to feel. Nobody should ever feel like the food that they're eating is not making them thrive in life. You know, if does that make sense? Does that make sense? I truly believe that there's power in food. I truly believe that when you have a better understanding with yourself and your body, you'll be able to look at food in a different light. And that's the message that I constantly push out there, because of the fact that food is powerful when you know how to use it and when to use it and how to use it for your body, use it for your mind, use it for everything that you want in life in order for you to see yourself thrive. And if you feel that you are not there yet, or that's where you're trying to reach, ask yourself those 3 questions. Ask yourself, what's your relationship with food? Take a trip down memory lane for a little bit. Don't get lost in it. Don't stay in there. Just figure out some small things and see the patterns that you used to do. See if you're still doing those patterns today. And if you are, what can you do to change that? What's your approach to food right now? And has your perspective changed? All right, guys, that is it for the talk today. I hope this helped you. I'm hoping that you're able to take those questions and reflect on them for yourself. And I'll catch you in our next video.